Hi Sparkers, in this video we're going to cover how to add and edit text to your creations. So text is a very powerful element in Spark. It allows you to give direction to your player, provide controls, tell a story, etc. So in this video we'll take a basic look at how to use text and how you can customize it for your game. Alright, so let's get started here and place a sign down. And I'll just pull one straight from the gallery here. Rustic sign should do. And I'll just place this right here in front of my character. Let's make sure it faces toward him, just like that. So this default brain here on this sign, it comes with a single line of code that reads, when detect player, say create a message as a text box. So what this means is when my player gets close to this sign, its detect center be flagged as true, and then it will run the do side. So it'll say this text right here, which is create a message, and then it'll do this as in a text box, and that's just the format it's going to come in. So let's look at that and see what that is in test mode. So I approach this sign here, it detects me, and then it says create a message as a text box. So how do I change this text? Very simply, so if I go here back into the brain on the sign, this is the text that I'd like to change. So if I go here and open that up, and let's start all the way back from the beginning. So if I'm at the top here of my code wheel, text is actually considered a value. So you can go to values, then text, and then here are your options. So I want to do a new text. So let's click on that. And let's say that Avalon is my favorite champion. And let's test. So I approach the sign here, and there we go. So instead of create a message, it says Avalon is my favorite champion, just like that. So going back to edit, that text that I just added is actually stored here in this folder. This is actually a text folder. So different text options will show up here. And so you can see Avalon is my favorite champion is here, and I can access it for later. So if I make a spelling mistake or I need to change it, I can actually edit it here from here too. So using the controller, I can actually use right stick, press that in, and I can switch that here and say Hawken is my favorite. If I could type, is my favorite champion. Just like that. Now this doesn't have to be all the same text that I enter. I can also add to this text. And the way to do that is I would actually go and find a plus sign. So like, when you think you're adding integers or, numbers like 1 + 1 = 2, I can actually do that with text. So let me go here and I'll switch over to page 2. Then under math, there's a plus sign. So I can do plus, then I can actually enter a new text. So values, text, new text. And let's say that he has an awesome shield bash attack. Cool, so I have those two statements together. Jump back out into test. And let's take a look. So you can see how those two statements added directly on top of each other. Now it actually reads kind of strange because there isn't a, typically, right, there's a space after the end of a sentence in the new one, but we didn't tell the brain or in code that there should be a space there. So let's fix that real quick. So if I jump back to the brain here on the sign, I can actually add a space by going to values here, text, new text, and we'll do just a space and then enter. And it'll look a little strange because there's no text in that, but that's exactly what we want, right? It's a space. And then we'll put that in between. So we have this first statement plus a space plus that. He has an awesome shield bash attack. Test that again. Perfect. So now that reads a lot better and has that space in the middle. We can also separate these two statements with a new line if we want to. So let's jump into the brain here on the sign. We can replace this space here with a new line. So new line is at the top of the text folder. When you open it up, it'll always be the first one. So just like that. Test, see what that looks like. So now you can see it actually put that on a second line as opposed to running right off. Whereas if you want a space in between those two statements, it's as simple as adding a new another new line to that. And I'll just copy this over, so I'll do another plus, and then I'll do another new line. So I'll have two new lines. And test. And now we have that space in between them there, which is really easy and looks really good. So in Spark, we can also do a lot of dynamic things with text. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me show you. So let's change this sign to reflect the name of my character. So I'm going to jump to Edit. And in this brain here, let us change this text. And I'll erase the name here. And I'm going to actually leave this space right here because I'm going to add something in front of it, and this saves me a step. I don't have to go in and specify another space. It'll just be part of this string statement. So I'll enter that. And then what I'm going to do is I want it to reflect my my player's name, and I can do that by using the it tile here. So it always references the most recent object called on the win side, and that would be here player. So it here is the player, and I'm looking to do the player's name, so his name shows up under the appearance folder, just like that. And let's make sure we also put a plus in between those. So let's see what that looks like now. Approach the sign here. So my it says Woodland Peasant Male is my favorite champion. So that's currently the name on my character, which is kind of funny, but you can see that it works. So let's change the name here on my character real quick. To do that, I just go here and edit on my character, and then I can choose to rename him using either on controller Y, or I can actually use the mouse here just to select that spot. And let's rename him to Hatch, let's say. And approach the sign. There we go. So now my player's name as an object, it knows it's Hatch, and it pulls that directly. So that's a little bit more dynamic than actually typing the string Hatch directly into code there. Let's do another example. I can show what team my player is on. So let's go on to this second statement here. So instead of saying he has an awesome shield bash, let's edit that text. And let's say he is on team, and let's add a space there too, because we know something's going to come after. And we'll do plus. And let's say, again, we'll call my player by using it here. It. And then there's, on page 2, there's this teams. Then team, and then I'll want to make sure to go in here too, and then under team settings is name. So it team name. And what this will do is refer to the name of the team my character is on. By default, this character here is on team 1. I can actually show that by opening his brain. It's the very first line here that sets him to team 1. So if we go to test, and you can see it now that it says that his team, he is on Team Heroes. So by default, Team 1 is actually called Heroes. Conveniently enough. Jump back to test, or edit, I should say. So you can see here it gets pretty easy for display lines of text to get pretty long. So let's fix that up here real quick. Let's get rid of this new line. Let's replace this with a space, and make sure we add a period at the end of this sentence. That's easy as doing doing new text here and entering a period. And let's see how that looks. Perfect. So Hatch is my favorite champion, and he is on Team Heroes. So in Spark, we also have something called text variables. So text variables are great for text that needs to change and update during play. So let's make one now. So we're going to actually do this here in the player's brain, or in Hatch's brain, I should say, now that he has a name. So let's open him up. We'll just do this right here on the front top line. And let's add display here. So we'll go to appearance, then the display folder, and then display. And then we'll add a new text. And let's do an objective. So let's just do current objective colon space. And then we'll add a statement to that. We go and get the plus. And then what we're going to do here is actually add a text variable. So to do that, you go to values, text, and then new text variable. And let's call this current objective. And then we'll make sure this has a position. It knows where to display it on screen. Don't worry about any of these modifiers. We'll cover this in a future video that talks about like style and display of text and things like that, what you can do on screen. Right now, just know that I'm going to tell it to display in the top right corner of the screen here. All right, so let's see what that looks like. Go to test. And you can see now in the top right corner I do have current objective, but I don't have anything showing up for that text variable. Well, and that makes sense because I didn't tell that text variable what it is yet. So right now it's undefined, it doesn't know what it is. So let's fix that. Jump into the player brain here. I'll add a line, and like any objective, I need to set it equal to something. So I'll just copy this guy, and then I'll do equals right after, and then I need to set it to equal to a text string. And let's say our objective here is read the sign. That makes a lot of sense for this. And we want to make sure that this only happens one time. We don't need it to continually happen. So we'll use that once tile here at the beginning. So let's see what that looks like. Perfect. So now I have an objective that says read the sign. Jump back to edit here. So now we actually want to change and do something dynamic with this. So the way I do that, we have to update the value of that text variable. So let's do that. Let's go into the sign here and have something happen when we actually read it. And so when we read it, it is when we detect the player. So I can have something else happen when I detect. So let's say when I do, we'll one time update the player's text variable. I'm using it again here to reference the player. And then I can go to values, text, and then you can see when I do create a new text variable, it actually will show up in this folder, which is really handy, so I can just grab it immediately. So there's current objective right there, and then I'll set it equals to something new. And let's do a new text. Let's call it finish this video. And go to test here. So right now my current objective says read the sign. I approach the sign, and now that I've read it, you can see my current objective updates to finish this video. So this line here, my character's brain, it updates this variable with the new text that it needs, which is finish this video. So I didn't have to change this at all. I just changed the value of this text variable, which is really handy for things like objectives or controls if you're switching between keyboard and mouse or controller, and there's a ton of different use cases why text variables are handy. That's basically it for this episode. I hope you found this helpful as you start using text in your Project Spark creations. Stay tuned for a future episode where we'll cover displaying text, like changing its size, positioning, color, etc. And thanks for tuning in.
Project Spark is where players create and creators play. What better way to be inspired than to see what's possible? This will surely spark your imagination. Now, how do we begin?